Welcome to another GLATA member spotlight video. Coming up on this episode, the Advocacy Committee's own Kylie Gulliver interviews Hope Davis-Coen about her experience as an athletic trainer in the performing arts setting, as well as her involvement on the Council on Practice Advancement. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content we're putting out.
What led me to this profession? So as an athletic trainer, I grew up, I think a lot of people have the same story. I grew up a dancer. I had my own collection of injuries that kind of pushed me into where I wanted to give back to the genre that really formed me into who I am. I think dance really helped me kind of become who I am. And I think I learned a lot that there was not a lot of services provided to dancers. So for me, unlike what we get as our undergrad is all these experiences of all these different sports, dancers are the ones who do understand how to do basic injury prevention, like not icing and getting up and dancing, or what to do and how much pain you should push through and things like that. So I feel like for me, it was an opportunity to give back to that part of my life, that I had to kind of put up the shoes when I made it through my college degrees. I got my degree in dance. Um, Wanted to dance a little bit more as a professional, but I knew that if I wanted to continue to do where my trajectory was going, I needed to kind of switch gears. So I was ready to do that. And this was my way of not having to give up on dancing, but kind of give back to it and combine two parts of my loves of my worlds together. I remember I had a back injury that had me like bedridden for 6 weeks, and I had to
Oh,
relearn how to dance. And my parents took me to Cincinnati, Ohio. For me, it was a 4-hour drive one way. They took me to Cincinnati to work with an athlete trainer who was somebody who was working with Cincinnati Ballet and a physical therapist on the next day. So we would stay at a hotel one night. I would work with I think I worked with the PT the first day, stayed on a hotel, got up the next morning, did work with the AT who was doing some Pilates stuff, and I would go home for a week, or I'm sorry, for 4 weeks, then redo those exercises, then come back and revamp them. So that athletic trainer was somebody who I really saw myself in. She was a previous dancer. She had danced with the ballet company, had went and got her athletic trainer. So it was something that I was like, look, this is someone who is doing what I really wanted to do. So I think that she really showed me there was a path forward in the career. So that was probably my first person. And I think it's funny, it's the people that I've worked with that were my students who have come back and become my colleagues. I've had a couple of them who have been really pivotal in my career and really helped me and showed me what I've given into the educating the future generations of athletic training, and how that really pushes us as a profession forward. And I feel like those couple of people, those few people who have become my colleagues in the past or have come in and out of my life in that time period, have become other peer models and people who I really look forward to and look at as my mentors too.
yeah, that's beautiful. I'm a young preceptor, so it's kind of beautiful to watch them grow. And mine are only about 2 years out now, so it's pretty inspiring. Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a lot of work. I feel like there's a lot of work to putting into like putting effort into teaching someone, but at the same time, I feel like I'm sadly to say an older preceptor now. So like for me, to be able to see them come back as a professional and to be able to do what the job was that I really found my dream job at, for them to come back and be side by side with me and us to work shoulder to shoulder, was really awesome to have that experience. I've seen that. I'm on my third student who's come back and worked with me side by side. So for me, it's really been like a a giving kind of feeling. Like I feel like it's almost like it's like they're my kids, but they're not
Yep.
my kids. And it's love
Yeah.
love to see them growing and how they, are there, but then they change and change their career paths or where they go next. It's really awesome to see them have that, like that ability to morph and move. So
Always
man,
something.
there's so the highlight of a career, I feel like that's our that question gets harder and harder the longer and longer I'm an athletic trainer, right? So there's lots of different opportunities I've had. For me, I think the one of the biggest ones was actually getting a job with a professional dance company. I was very young in my career. I was early 20s. So for me to get a position with a professional dance company that was very irregular at that point in time for anyone to be on site with dancers was
Yeah.
really a big pivotal moment for me, for the artistic director to have the trust and faith in me, but then also like my employer at that point in time to see that there was a need to provide those services for like an underprivileged population that really has grown in my time here. That's one of
Yeah.
them. I also started as a single person, and I am now married with kids. So for me, one of the other really big highlights for me was when my daughter was born. She was born in August, but we had Nutcracker that season. So she was the one of the props. She was one of the doll babies who was carried out on stage for Nutcracker. So we just finished Nutcracker, so it kind of brings it back a little bit closer to home too. But like seeing her on stage with the dancers that I treat and that I trust with my own child was a really big highlight, even though it's not anything to do with my actual career. And then
That sounds
seeing
amazing. Yeah.
it's a giving part of it all. And I
Yes.
think the other part of it is all those dancers who I've helped along the way where they've had some pretty significant injuries, and have had to like take time off, do a surgery, whatever it is, and then be able to come back and be back on stage. All those have been really big. There's been multiple ones that probably stand out high, stronger than others. You build lots of relationships along the way. I try really hard to make my life very, work and personal life separated, but it's really hard, I think, as an athletic trainer to like not really see yourself and all the energy you put into those athletes to get them back to where they were. I think that's a huge component for me too. Is just doing that, and then some of those dancers are now adults, and or they're all adults, but like our parents and like older adults, and they now still come back to me and ask me advice for like their private healthcare stuff. So like
Yeah.
to see that kind of tenfold means I did my job by teaching them and having them feel trusted by me. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Having that lasting long-term impact is pretty impressive. Yeah. Very cool to hear that they still reach out to you. And
Yeah.
my athletes, when they're just a random health question, they're like, I have no idea, but thank you so much for trusting me to be your
I
person.
will have to look it up. I'll tell you some other
Yeah.
things, but no, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun to see that too. Yep. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
when I was younger, it didn't feel as much, but now I feel like as seeing it as I get older, the more I'm like, that means people really did trust what your vantage point or your opinion or your advice. So I see it in a different way now. So things that are newer, advancing, coming in, like newer topics that are coming up to my career right now. I've lived in the professional dance world for a long time, which means I got myself kind of shoveled into the world of workers' compensation. So workers'
Yeah.
compensation is very overwhelming. It's a kind of a very uh, I feel like everyone thinks twice about working in that world just because it's a lot of paperwork. And I've learned a lot. Some of it, maybe a lot more of it than I would like to admit, is by trial and error and how much of what I did right and what I did wrong and how I can change and form that differently. So I feel like I'm currently working on a couple different projects. NATA COPA. I work at, I'm also on the board at Dance USA Task Force, and I'm working on a couple different projects that are working with workers' compensation because I feel like it's such a unique place to be in the state of Ohio as an athletic trainer. I can do my own plan of care and sign up and make my own timeline for a return to injury without having to work under a different healthcare provider. So
Wow.
for me, under workers' compensation, so that's something to me is really, really something I feel like as an athlete trainer and someone who really wants to push this, this career and this profession forward, we really need to hone into the places where we already have wins. And I think that's one of the wins that we can really highlight. We just need to understand that it's cumbersome and there's a lot of steps and there's a lot of paperwork, but we can do it too. We're just as
Right.
qualified. So I feel like that's
Yeah.
probably my most current project but I feel like I might be the most energized by.
Yeah.
I say energized, but then I kind of wince at the same time because there's a lot that goes along with that, but it's exciting.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this a lot because looking back and trying to give my younger self advice and what I would do, and part of that is slow down, enjoy it, because time really does move faster than you expect. I feel like for me, especially, I really felt out to prove something because I wanted to do something in the performing arts world. It's now such a much larger. I mean, I just talked to you. You said you've never been in, but like there's such a large venue now. It's there's so many people who are working in it, and it's amazing to see how many dancers come back and come back and put themselves into that position, either as an athletic trainer or a physician or a physical therapist or massage therapist or whatever career they choose. It's amazing to see. But I think the biggest thing for me would be going back and saying you don't need to be the jack of all trades, and that specializing early in your career is really hard because it pinpoints you into a specific corner. So finding the ability to really feel comfortable in your shoes as an athlete trainer, honing those skills. We're going to be jacks of all trades just because of what our profession allows us to do. But I think that like allowing yourself to really get comfortable in your skill set and like finding what really motivates you as an athletic trainer, what really interests you and what really helps you the most is probably more important than trying to jump into that dream job too early in. My feelings for the profession. I mean, I feel like I would love to see athlete trainers more viewed as the healthcare providers that they are. I feel like I would love to see us viewed the same way as our counterparts. I've worked in the world where I feel like I've been the bridge for the athlete training and physical therapy world for such a long time in my career. I've always kind of straddled both worlds. And especially even, I mean, I'm outside the clinic. I used to be in the clinic and out on site. Now I'm more just outside, but even now I still straddle that world with when it comes to workers' compensation or referrals and things like that. So I view athlete training as a team sport. So I'm only as good as the lowest person in my team, right? Or the least skilled person in my team. So for me, if I get myself and embrace as many people as I can on my team, then it should be seamless. It should be my patient and our patient should never really have any drop in care. That means that I have to build those relationships. So I would love to see not only our profession being pushed forward, but also us mending relationships and really being able to be that person that knows the athletes inside and out, because we do, but then knowing how to help them continue their medical or their injury timeline in a more seamless way and making sure that they're getting the care that they need. And that may mean passing them off, or it may mean us communicating with workers' comp or working with a physician or talking to a physical therapist, but knowing that we have a specialty and we have a skill set that will help that athlete along the way. Hopes and dreams for myself. So I feel like some of it was what we just talked about, right? Pushing the profession forward. I feel like for me, especially as a CI, as a person who still takes on students, I really want to continue that forward trajectory of athlete training. But the other part of it too is finding it's been a journey, right? Like I said at the beginning, I started my career as a single person with no responsibilities, and learning how to have that work-life balance has had its ups and downs in my in my lifetime. So I think athlete training is learning the ebbs and flow of your specific occupation, learning when to vocalize and speak up for yourself and to be able to be an advocate for not only your patients, but for yourself along the way. And I feel like that for me, I'm in that place in my life where I am an older person where I feel like more younger athlete trainers are looking up to me. So I feel like I need to be a better role model when it comes to like knowing where my limits are, or when I should say, hey, this is where I need a little break from things. But also expanding I focus on dance because that's what I grew up doing, right? So dance is what I know, but like broadening the horizon of performing arts, not just to dance, but to musicians or to, aero stunners or, Broadway shows, and this getting a little bit of everything, because performing arts as a whole are the people who are, I feel like, who really give us more humanity back to our worlds. But they are the ones who are never given much in the process of that. So I feel like we really hone on our athletes, right? give our football teams get tons of money, or whatever sport is big at that point in time in the season gets a lot of visual part of it. So for me, is like figuring out a way to be able to bring some of that into the world that I've lived in all my life. So for me to join the COPA committee at NATA was a really big component. I remember when I did the interview, I had number one, had not done an interview for a long time. So I was like, this is a great, practicing. I've been in the same position now for 17, 18 years. So I haven't had a reason to do interviews other than like for like, experiences about my career.
Right.
But it was an opportunity to see and me get back to the root, like my grassroots, right? Like I said, I have always straddled the world between athlete training and physical therapy, and I've always felt like I've been a pretty good bridge when it comes to that. But for me also, I feel like I'm at a point in my career where like I really like to push the athlete training world, push it up. I feel like there's an opportunity for us to really show ourselves and show our skill set. And this was a way for me to get back to my grassroots and say like, hey, this is where I started. This is where I want to continue to push. Doesn't say I don't continue to build relationships with my others, but the PTs and my counterparts. But I think that this is an opportunity for me to kind of show myself in a different light, where I was like, I'm going to take a bigger stance and saying that I am an athlete trainer. I'm very proud of it. So that was one of it. And I think we were really pushing for like the younger generation and trying to find out ways to educate and bring them into. So I feel like NATA feels like it used to feel a little older mindset, and I think that we're trying to bring some fresh air into it and kind of buff it and show the younger generation why it's so important to have NATA
Yeah.
as part of your tool belt.
If you would like to recommend a colleague or yourself for GLATA member spotlight videos, you can go over to glata.org, look under the Advocacy Committee tab, and click on GLATA AT Spotlight to fill out the form. Until next time, stay great, GLATA.